Wars often seem to erupt over politics or ideology, with headlines focusing on leaders, flags, and the clash of beliefs. But if we look deeper, we find that these surface-level reasons often mask something more fundamental. Beneath the noise of political speeches and ideological battles lies a more basic struggle, the fight for resources. Food, water, energy, and raw materials are the lifeblood of societies, and when they run short, tensions can quickly escalate. These raw materials, oil, minerals, land, are the foundation of our economies and daily lives. They power our cars, build our cities, and feed our families. Without them, modern civilization would grind to a halt. When access to these resources becomes limited, or when a single nation or group gains control, the balance of power shifts. Borders harden, militaries mobilize, and diplomatic tensions simmer just below the surface. Resource wars are often disguised as battles for security or freedom, with governments rallying their people around noble causes. Yet behind the slogans, the true motivation is often the desire to secure vital supplies. A closer look reveals the real prize: control over assets that can make or break a nation's future. Gold, oil, fertile soil, these are the treasures that spark both ambition and fear. The fate of entire nations can hinge on who controls oil fields, mineral deposits, or fertile land. These resources are not just commodities. They are strategic assets that shape the destiny of peoples and countries. As the global population grows and economies industrialize at a rapid pace, the demand for these resources intensifies. Cities expand, industries boom, and the competition for limited supplies becomes fiercer than ever before. This mounting pressure transforms what might have been economic rivalry into open military tension, raising the risk of confrontation on a global scale. Trade disputes can quickly spiral into armed standoffs. To truly understand modern geopolitics, we must look past the surface and recognize the central role of resource competition. It is the hidden thread connecting many of today's most pressing international crises. In this video, we'll explore why oil, minerals, and land are so crucial and how their pursuit has shaped devastating conflicts throughout history, sometimes leaving entire regions in ruins. We'll examine the human and national costs, from mass displacement and shattered communities to the collapse of states and the long-term scars left behind. And finally, we'll consider how cooperation, innovation, and sustainable management could replace conflict, offering hope for a future where resources are shared and prosperity is possible for all. The struggle for resources is the hidden engine driving many of today's most dangerous disputes. It is a force that shapes our world, often unseen but always present. By understanding this powerful dynamic, we can better navigate the challenges ahead and work toward a more peaceful, sustainable world. Let's begin. Our world runs on three pillars: oil, minerals, and land. These resources are the foundation of modern civilization, shaping the way we live, work, and connect with each other. From the energy that powers our cities to the materials that build our homes, their influence is everywhere. Oil powers our transport and industry. Without it, economies stall. It fuels cars, planes, and ships, and is the lifeblood of countless industries. The global demand for oil drives exploration into remote regions and sparks innovation in extraction and refining. Minerals are the backbone of technology, found in every phone, car, and computer. Rare earth elements, copper and lithium, are essential for batteries, electronics, and renewable energy. As technology advances, the need for these minerals only grows, making them more valuable than ever. Nations with these resources hold economic power. Those without must compete fiercely to secure them. International deals, alliances, and even rivalries often revolve around access to oil fields, mineral deposits, and fertile land. Land remains essential for food, water, and shelter. Its control is a matter of survival. Fertile soil feeds populations, while access to land determines where people can build homes and communities. Access to fresh water, tied to land, is a growing source of conflict, especially as populations rise. Rivers and aquifers are lifelines for agriculture in cities, and disputes over water rights are becoming more common as climate change intensifies scarcity. These resources form the bedrock of national strength and stability. Control over oil, minerals, and land can determine a country's prosperity and its ability to withstand global shocks. Governments go to great lengths to protect their supply lines, seeing resource security as vital to survival. Military forces, advanced technology, and strict regulations are all used to safeguard these assets from threats both foreign and domestic. The pursuit of oil, minerals, and land isn't just about profit, it's about a nation's future. Decisions made today about resource management will echo for generations, shaping economies and societies. In a crowded, resource-hungry world, this competition shapes global politics. The struggle for control and access to these vital resources will continue to define relationships between nations and the fate of billions. Oil is the world's primary energy source, powering transport and trade. Any disruption in oil supply can trigger global economic crises, making it a constant focus of international politics. Oil reserves are concentrated in a few regions, creating power imbalances and dependencies. Major powers forge alliances, establish military bases, and intervene abroad to secure oil flows. The Gulf War showed how far nations will go to protect oil interests. Today, disputes over drilling rights and sanctions on oil exporters continue to spark tension. Oil's strategic importance ensures it remains a flashpoint for conflict. As reserves dwindle and demand grows, the competition for oil will only intensify. The global energy game is far from over. Strategic minerals like lithium, cobalt, and rare earths are now as vital as oil. They power electric vehicles, renewable energy, and advanced electronics. Most reserves are concentrated in a handful of countries, creating new dependencies and vulnerabilities. In places like the Congo, the scramble for minerals has fueled brutal conflicts and exploitation. Global demand connects consumers everywhere to these distant struggles. Major powers are racing to secure supply chains, investing in mining, recycling, and alternatives. Control over these minerals will shape economic and military power in the 21st century. The battle for technological resources is just beginning. Land and water are the oldest sources of conflict, and still among the most urgent. Fertile land and fresh water are essential for survival, yet both are increasingly scarce. Disputes over farmland or river access can escalate quickly, especially where governance is weak. The Darfur conflict, driven by drought and shrinking resources, shows how environmental stress can ignite violence. Climate change is making these pressures worse, threatening more regions with conflict and displacement. Securing land and water is now a core issue of human security. Without sustainable management, these basic needs will drive future wars. The Democratic Republic of Congo stands as a stark and sobering example of how immense resource wealth can paradoxically fuel endless conflict and suffering rather than prosperity. In the heart of Africa, the DRC is home to some of the world's richest deposits of minerals like cobalt, gold, and coltan, materials essential for modern technology. Despite these vast mineral riches, the DRC has endured decades of brutal war and instability. Armed groups, local militias, and foreign actors all compete fiercely to control the lucrative mines, often resorting to violence and intimidation. Profits from these minerals are used to fund ongoing violence, creating a relentless cycle of exploitation, fear, and suffering for ordinary civilians. Children are forced to work in dangerous conditions, and entire communities are torn apart. Millions have been killed or displaced, and the country's immense natural wealth rarely, if ever, benefits its own people. Instead, poverty and instability persist, while families are uprooted and lives are shattered. Illegally mined minerals are smuggled out and enter global supply chains, ultimately linking consumers around the world to the violence and exploitation happening in Congo's mining regions. Efforts to trace, monitor, and regulate these resources face enormous challenges, from corruption and lack of oversight to the sheer scale of illegal mining operations. The tragedy of the DRC reveals how insatiable global demand can transform local resources into engines of war, fueling cycles of violence that reach far beyond national borders. The resource curse is real, and its impact is not confined to one country. From Africa to Asia and beyond, resource-driven conflicts threaten stability and lives across the globe. Breaking this devastating cycle requires not just local action, but genuine international cooperation, transparency, and accountability at every level. Resource wars devastate ordinary people most. Homes and farms become battlegrounds, and civilians face violence from armies and militias alike. Mass displacement is common. Millions flee, becoming refugees or internally displaced, often with nothing left. Overcrowded camps and lost livelihoods create humanitarian crises that can destabilize entire regions. Prolonged conflict can collapse states, destroy infrastructure, and leave economies dependent on a single contested resource. Warlords and criminal networks fill the power vacuum, making recovery nearly impossible. The psychological scars are deep. Generations grow up amid violence, missing education, and hope. Communities are torn apart, and trauma lingers long after the fighting ends. Resource wars don't just destroy buildings, they destroy futures. The human cost is incalculable. Preventing resource wars demands transparency, accountability, and smarter resource management. Initiatives like the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative help ensure resource wealth benefits entire populations, not just elites. Diversifying economies reduces dependence on a single resource and lowers the risk of conflict. Developed nations must cut consumption and invest in recycling and renewables to ease global competition. International diplomacy is key. Mediating disputes and monitoring resource extraction can prevent violence. Early warning systems and peacekeeping missions should protect both people and resources. By focusing on cooperation and sustainability, we can turn resources from a cause of war into a source of shared prosperity. The path to peace is clear, but it requires global commitment. Our future depends on it. Humanity's story is shaped by our quest for resources, sometimes for progress, too often for conflict. Today, the stakes are higher than ever, with rising demand and climate change threatening to intensify competition. If we continue unchecked, resource wars could define our future. But this outcome isn't inevitable. By embracing transparency, economic diversification, and sustainable technologies, we can reduce dangerous dependencies. Stronger international laws and diplomacy can help us share resources peacefully. Ultimately, we must recognize that Earth's resources are a shared inheritance. Our security and prosperity are interconnected. Only through wise, equitable management can we build a peaceful, stable future. Together, we can turn potential conflict into global cooperation and hope.